Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today in this video, I'm going to clip something from a recent Splinterlands TV live event. And in this conversation, you're going to hear myself, Rick on the Mountain, and Jim Morgan debating and discussing the power and impact of the Chaos Legion summoners, the legendary, amazing summoners. Are they overpowered? Are they underpowered? Are they meta-defining? Are they really underwhelming? There's a lot of debate there, but also we want to speculate on the new summoners that are yet to come, the Death and the Dragon, and what will their impact be? And as we carry this forward 2 years into the future, will we look back on Chaos Legion summoners as meh or as really miraculous? I think there's going to be an interesting story told there. So I hope you'll stick around with me on this one and have an amazing day. God bless. So Rick, tell me a little bit about what are you doing with Immortalis? Did you combine them? Are you playing with that? Are you renting it? What are you doing?
Well, I have the level 2 with the 3 that you sent me, and then I have one other BCX. I'm currently trying to get a few more because I do want to get him up to at least level 3, make him playable for me. But like I said, this season I'm pretty much taken off, so I haven't really got in any reps with him. But I'm super stoked to use him. I think that much like I called, Dallin, that so many people were sleeping on him, and that was the first max level summoner I ever built, and I don't regret a bit of it because he's still a lot better than people think.
I agree,
but I think that Immortalis is the second best Chaos Legion summoner.
Yeah, tell me about that. Who's better, and like walk me through your thinking on why Immortalis ranks as high as that.
Wraith. Wraith is the one that's better.
So you like Wraith, and obviously you like the sustainability, the resiliency, the defensive nature. Why does Immortalis, I guess, jump in there as number 2 over, like, for instance, a Possibilis or the speed of a Yasik?
Honestly, a Yasik would be higher, but I feel like the only time when Yasik is actually usable is when you're not using any melee or any magic or ranged, because the scatter shot just makes him so unpredictable. It's actually like he's the only summoner that's actively bad in a number of situations. Like even running like Wizard of Estwood in a no armor situation, like he's absolutely pointless, but he's not actively hurting your team. Whereas Yasik with the scatter shot, unless RNG is in your favor, and anybody who stream knows that RNG is never in my favor. Yasik is actively bad. He really hurts your team with the scatter shot. So Yasik is
talking about.
Jim, good to see you, buddy.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Guys, don't listen to this guy. Butters, I see you out there in the chat. Don't listen to him.
Jim, get in there. What you love you like the Jace K or you
tell me? Jace K. The Jace K is phenomenal. All right, I love melee assassins, and he makes them so good.
I did say that he is so only good when he is all melee.
Don't listen to Rick. You stay over on your mountain, okay? You leave my Jace K alone.
If we're talking about a full melee lineup, then Billy.
I don't want to hear it. Okay, you think Immortalis and Dallin are good summoners? Okay, don't be rolling up in here trying to throw out Jason.
I didn't say that Dallin is the best.
I just can't right now.
I do like.
But if we're talking about a melee only lineup, then Billy is better than Yasik. And if we're talking about not a melee only lineup, then Yasik is not good.
Get out of my face, Rick.
I'm not in your face, my friend.
I do like the speed for sure from Yasik. I think that there is. You're right though. Like the diversity, the like unreliability of a scatter shot, it can be frustrating when your targets are not, or shots are not landing where you want them to, and can be frustrating from a defensive perspective when the attacker is using Yasik and they're landing in just the perfect way. That RNG, like you're saying, it can be perfect, and you'd obliterate some very, very vulnerable monsters escaping a taunt, right? Like it can be really, really awesome. But how many times have you used it, and your guys are firing every which way but where you want them to fire. I agree. I like to do, I'll go Yasik and I go melee. I'll go melee, strictly opportunity, or strictly sneak, or strictly, melee in the first position, melee in the second, and maybe a couple opportunity monsters, because you don't need to worry about scattershot in that context, and you can take all the best of it and leave that one question mark alone. But even the question mark, the scattershot can be great. Like because taunt is so prevalent, it is annoying when you go up against a Coral Lurker, and they're using Yasik probably, and the Coral Lurker's got friggin' 11 speed or something, and that taunt is evasive and phasing and dodging, and but then you got scattershot to just go ahead and go around that.
Yeah, and so like I see the strong points of Yasik, but as far as your everyday kind of go-to summoner, that it's too painful with the scatter shot on your average team. And so like and that's what I'm looking at, is as far as a single summoner to build around, as it were. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a spot, but also like if we're talking about somebody who is going to be helming up a full melee team, I would still rather have Possibilis and give them all trample, rather than have Yasik and give them 2 extra speed.
Jim, let's hear about your thoughts on Possibilis. Where does Immortalis rank for you, Jim? And talk to me about, we haven't heard anything much about Possibilis also.
So I think with Immortalis, I think I'd have to put him in like top 6 of these summoners. I think that's a really safe spot.
Top 6. We're only talking about 4.
You had me there for a second. Look at these win rates. This is kind of astonishing. You never can trust this though. Like at 28 battles with Yasik.
Is that in bronze?
Yeah, in bronze. Let's see, diamond. There we go.
51.
But then 82 battles is like okay.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. 61% from the Wraith. Again, like a smaller battle set, but I mean, Wraith is the quarterback right now. He's like, it's easy to make some strong teams with that summoner, in my opinion. And of course, I like the other ones too. I do. I can see arguments for all of them. I actually prefer Possibilis over Immortalis, and maybe even over Yasik. But I really think they each have their own, they each have their own little niche.
Yeah, and that's definitely what it seems like Splinterlands team's trying to make. Not so much of like, oh, this is just a 1-card carry. All right, we're not talking about Lux. These new airdrop ones where it's just, all right, can this fit in here? If yes, great. If no, all right, move on. What other options do I have?
Yeah, I think they're consciously trying to not make Kitty and Yoden and Llama, and I support that decision. Like,
I don't.
I'm glad that these guys are a peg down, that they're very useful, but not everywhere.
I want them to make more kitties and llamas because I'm here. I'll be getting a bunch of them. I want these cards, Give me 2-year time frame when they like 20x in price. Yes, please.
I do think that we are going to see a dragon summoner that is I think people are generally believing that these summoners are toned down, and that we are going to see kind of a stable issuance. They're not going to be radical. They're not going to be wild. I think part of that is because a few key cards you don't know about yet haven't come out, including the dragon summoner, which I think is going to be legendary. I think he's going to dragon. First of all, dragon's dragon, but I just think
it's definitely going to be a legendary.
I think it's going to be the best. I think it'll be hands down the best. And I'm also excited to see Death too, but
Dude,
Yeah,
it
man.
has to be -2 speed, right? Death has to be -2 speed.
I mean, we know what the art looks like. Let's pull it up and we'll kind of look at. Hang on,
Did we get the artwork for it?
yeah, we did. Hang on a second. Discord. I go over to Splinterlands. Eye candy. Now it's way up here, so bear with me. But yeah, it's like a blue kind of ghost looking dude, and he looks like a magic monster, to be honest, which makes me think some sort of magic buff. But how wild would that be? Because Jim, we've talked about it so many times. They don't do plus.
Yeah, they don't do plus anything for
yeah.
death.
I don't know.
I kind of hope
why
that they
wouldn't.
stick with that. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see -2 speed on the death. That
The
would
reason
make perfect
the
sense.
reason I don't think it makes sense for them to do it is because all of the other colors are starting to like merge in terms of identity. Of it's
And-
like,
and
oh, we're
that's
all
the
buffing
thing.
all these other stats. So why are they going to keep death a part of, or not a part of that?
And that's a mistake. I think they need to stop merging the other colors so much because, I mean, look at Magic. What are some of the biggest mistakes that have been made in that game when they start blurring the lines between the colors? Like a blue lightning bolt. Even though it did 2 damage back
Oh,
to
and
you.
Magic.
Yeah,
Dude, let's not talk about Psionic Blast. That thing was 3 mana. That was garbage.
exactly. But it's just things that you don't need to be doing. It like keep the color pie separate. That is part of the reason why you have the different elements, especially because we don't have, the kind of elemental advantage system that so many other fantasy games have, where water deals extra damage
Right.
against fire.
So,
Like,
So
we need
question.
to keep them distinct, though.
question. So then what is water supposed to be? Magic and speed?
I'm not saying that it has to be like, I don't have a clear definition at this point.
Right, but this is the thing. You're able to bring in magic for every single one of those colors and amplify it. Because it all makes sense. Death magic, water magic, earth magic, it all makes sense. So being
But
able to buff your
that
stuff.
death is their summoners don't provide buffs. Their monsters tend to
Don't
be
provide it yet.
higher on the base stats and lower on the abilities, and they don't really have as much access to heal, especially to heal somebody else. I like all of that about death. It all fits with death.
Yeah.
Life is
Yeah, but
much
how
more
long is
healing
this going
focused.
to how long is this going to last?
I mean,
It can last until they start changing stuff.
but I think there's
again-
I think it makes a lot of sense if it does continue, if it does persist. I don't know that it always will, and I think we've seen examples in the past of how some monsters kick against the like lore or the identity of that splinter. Like I was pulling up earlier quietly while you guys were talking. I was just pulling up the beta summoner. Where is he? Legendary from the Peak Rider. I thought it was really cool to learn. First of all, the Peak Rider, you guys might probably already know, is obviously Peak. It was made by Peak Monsters or the Peak team, and
Jarvie.
Jarvie. And Jarvie explained that it's actually like it's a demon. And he's wearing white armor because he got sick and tired of like representing death and like I guess evil, and so he went over to like become like a life warrior. And so he's still a badass. Like he's a spear wielding, horse riding demon with white armor. He's got smoke billowing out from his horse's nostrils or something. The dude's badass. And you can do
He's bad heck.
you can do cool lore kind of twists in that way, probably, that are going to be more one-off, while still respecting kind of that history that they have begun to carve out for every splinter. And I do think that there's still room for saying every now and then, like, we are going to bring a healer to the death team. They've done it before. I think you almost got to, but just if you're looking for a heal team, it's not usually your death team. If you're looking for a life leech team, maybe that's your death. If you're looking for poison, you know what I mean? That's often, and I do like that too.
Yeah. And like I don't feel like life needs to have a whole bunch of poisons running around.
Yeah.
That just is not on brand.
Yeah.
Like water does not need to be the fastest team.
Yeah.
That is not on brand.
And
Like,
would
fastest team should definitely be fire.
and would everything be fun? Like, would it be more entertaining or would it be less entertaining if every splinter just had that same vibe? You know, like just a certain, they all had 2 poison monsters. They all had 2 healers. They all had, you know, right? Like, would that be more exciting or would it be less exciting? I think probably less exciting.
Yeah, I feel like that would be drastically less exciting. You have to have some distinction between the splinters. Otherwise, there's no point in even having the splinters. And
I think that makes perfect sense for monsters. But when it comes to the summoners, I don't see why we couldn't have plus stats on death.
Yeah.
I'm
with you.
not saying that we can't. I'm just saying that I support them continuing on the trend of not. And like I like to see the two speed taken from your opponent's team more than +1 magic. Like we've already got +1 magic all over the place, and it's super prevalent. Like I don't think that really is something that is necessary. Whereas a -2 speed would make more impact to the meta and also is more on brand with death. I'm not saying they can't do it or I wouldn't support it, but I would much rather see the -2 speed than the +1 magic.
You know what's interesting is to go to death and to look at I'm going to go back to Summoner Lab, to go to like Diamond League level and then go to death, monsters, and look at Chaos Legion and Rift Watchers and just see what these monsters, like this is right here, your tip of the, your strongest death team from the Modern League for the next little bit. And what sort of summoner would come in here and really, you know, transform what they're doing? If you saw like I simply cannot imagine. I like refuse to accept that the death summoner will have plus archery. It's just it would be too nasty with this already devastating. Like these are 4s and this is a double 4. There's too much archery damage output here. I can't see it. Like that's like I feel like for sure it's not a plus archery.
That would be too OP.
I could see maybe like just looking at how few magic monsters there are here, like if it was gonna be ever a death +1 magic, it could be now. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, but like these turns, like the 5 turns to 6 is a big 4 turns to, like that's a lot of damage, man.
Do we have any in the reward cards? I don't remember exactly.
In rewards?
Yeah. Click the modern only part though.
Yeah, modern only. And then let's pull away from there. So you wanted to see just the rewards?
Yeah. Oh, the Reveler.
Revealer, yeah.
Yeah, that
Revealer
guy,
and
and then Bonesmith, yeah. Oh, the Bonesmith would be so good with a plus magic.
Yeah.
Bonesmith and Life Sapper would both get pushed up to +2 life every turn.
Yeah.
Because of that life steal or life leech.
Yeah.
With a plus magic summoner, and that would be huge.
Yeah. Hey, did I spell leech wrong? Leech. How do you spell?
Leech.
Yeah.
There's more than one life leech. What's going on right now? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's just looking up name. It's not looking up ability.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. I think like the only reason I even toy with it, because I do think, I'm not saying it would be a game breaker, but it would be a first, wouldn't it? It would be a first where there's a death summoner who really does something like that. I sincerely doubt it'll be I feel certain it will not be a plus archery. I sincerely doubt it'll be a melee, just because you already have melee. Recently we have like Tarsa, we have who else? We got other melees. We got Posilibus is like a melee. It just feels like there's too much melee. I feel melee is like almost like more of the meta right now than magic is, and that's part of another thing. I feel magic is just a real back seat right now in the meta.
I feel that it's a fairly safe bet that we're going to see -2 speed and thorns.
-2 speed and what?
And thorns.
And then let's look at the image again, because I pulled it up. This is him, and his name, I forget his name, but like He looks
be
magic-y.
phase?
What's that?
-2 speed and phase?
That would be wild.
Dude, that'd be sick.
That would absolutely be disruptive to the meta.
Holy
to the
cow.
Magic meta.
-2 speed, dodge and phase. Blind
whoa,
dodge.
Whoa. Dwayne, don't get too
That
out
would
of hand
just,
now.
yeah, that would be.
Break the game.
That would almost be the counter to Kitty, except that True Strike means your dodge and your phase both go.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I still think that should be dispellable, but whatever.
Yeah. But he looks magical. That's something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if what's the name? I want to. So the name,
Cosmic.
the Astral Entity is the name of this summoner.
Ooh, dude, it has to be phase. Like he's, like phase walk. What is the thing in D&D? Shifting through planes.
Yeah, he does kind of look.
Yeah, it's land walk.
Yeah, he has to. It has to give us phase. I'm calling it.
Phase could be a
-2
good
speed
guess.
Phase.
Yeah, good guess.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that art, that definitely fits more than -2 speed and thorns. I was thinking purely mechanically with -2 thorns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like the thorns. I can't see it happening right now, even though thematically, like lore wise, it jives a lot with the death team. I just don't feel. I don't anticipate that in this season right now. We feel like. Is Dice all that long ago? I mean, I know it's almost wild, but I feel like we still have Ouster, we still have Mylor. They're still like pretty well. I still see people using them. I consider those very strong summoners, and I don't know. I'd be surprised if it was Thorns. I could see Phase. I could definitely see -2 speed.
Ooh,
Maybe a new ability. Could we foresee a new ability here?
I don't think it's going to be new abilities
No?
for these airdrop ones now.
Yeah, new abilities are definitely coming. Very surprised if they were to add that this late in the airdrop cycle to these summoners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be something that they just release at the opening of the packs, I guess you could say, the release date, rather than just, we're going to give one of our random people who paid a bunch of money.
Fair enough.
Give them a new ability.
Or even it could be like, it is introduced for the legendary airdrop, but it would be introduced like for the cycle.
Yep.
Like each of them have a new ability. I could see something like that. But after we've already got 4 of them, and then now the last 2, I would be very surprised to see that.
I think that makes sense. Butter says blind, +1 magic, +1 speed. Somebody was asking about power creep, and we've talked about this summoner. We talked about Immortalis. We talked about a little bit about Possibilis and Yasik. Like, what do we think about? You guys seem to suggest earlier you think these are more stable than some of the previous summoners. Do you think that we are seeing power creep in these summoners, or have they been pretty, I don't know, basic or safe?
It's been like a power dampening, it seems like.
Talk to me.
I feel like they're kind of going the opposite direction with the summoners. They're trying to rein them back a little.
Yeah.
So,
which is a good thing and a bad thing.
So what do you mean? Like, give me some examples. Like, what dampening? Like, they're more tame. They're more basic. They're not as which they're not shifting and changing the meta as dramatically as some of the old ones.
They're definitely meta changing, but they're not meta defining. Like, none of these summoners is on the same power level as Kitty, where it doesn't matter what team you run with Kitty. You run Kitty, you win.
Well,
they're not.
Master Wraith was pretty meta defining. Like, him in top tiers was pretty crazy to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think I hear this a lot. I hear this a lot from the community around the idea that like these summoners kind of suck. Is like, that's not exactly what you're saying, guys, but that's like, you could take it to that place. You could say these summoners they've been a little bit basic. They haven't been like they haven't been up there with like a Kitty. They haven't been up there with a Llama or a Yodin. And
It's-
and I think I have to disagree. I mean, like, even if you just like look at Yoden and how powerful Yoden was, and then you see what Wraith does, I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty well an absolute shutdown. And then I think, you know, Magic was like absolutely devastating, and still is, like, in the older leagues. And you get a card like this that I don't even like love, plus armor. I feel like there's a lot of balance here, which is good. And that might be where you guys come from, saying some of the things around, like, these cards are like safer or something. That's the word I keep using. You didn't say that, but I feel like there's a real balance here, which is different than some of like the Untames, for instance, because Kitty is so different than,
every other
you know,
summoner.
like the blue one, which Liar Deep Swimmer, which I personally think kind of sucks. But and these ones I feel are all relatively okay. But my one last point I want to make is I actually think these are really good cards, and we haven't had like the perspective or the time to really see how good they are and how have them be entrenched. And actually, because they're still in circulation, like the packs are still being opened, people are still getting copies of these things. The prices are still therefore declining. That all lends to this narrative that these things aren't that great, because if they were great, their price would be hundreds of dollars. And I say, like, just wait a year or two and these cards will go up, and then everyone will be talking about, like, man, Grandmaster Wraith, I wish I could afford it. And, you know, Immortalis and Possibilis, and yeah, like, I wish I was here when those things were on sale. But like, maybe that's 2 years away. But that's gonna come, and it'll be this retroactive story where these were always good, and we were so lucky to be here then. Well, meanwhile, in the middle of this season, everyone's like, I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like a lot of the people that are complaining about these summoners going to complain no matter what. And I'm not like, they're all really good. I like all of them. Even when I'm saying, like, I don't like Yasik and his scatter shot, like, I still love the +2 speed and the piercing. I'm just, putting him against the other guys and saying that he's my least favorite. I still love Yasik.
Mhm.
And all I'm saying is that they're less spammable. Like, if you've got Yoden, you can just run Yoden every game, and he is going to drastically increase your winning percentage over most other summons. Same thing with Llama, same thing with Kitty. And I don't feel like any of the Chaos Legion have that particular aspect to them. They're all very strong, but they're very strong in a more limited sense, and they're less spammable like that.
I don't know, Jim. What do you think about that?
Well, there was this one other thing I wanted to add.
Yeah.
So people have also talked about, where was it? Compared to Kitty and Llama, all right, like these summoners, I believe these summoners are doing well, even with them having to compete with Kitty and Yoden and Llama and stuff like that. So they're looking at how strong these are in comparison to instantly the cards that have defined the game. And I think, not all of them are extremely good in comparison to the other ones. But Grandmaster Wraith has definitely shined quite a bit. And yeah, I know I sound like Seth Rogen. So, but going off of what Rick said, yeah, there's definitely summoners that you can use to be more proactive than others. And I think just staying away from the weaknesses of your summoners is another thing to really pay attention to. Because like we talked about before, the melee assassins with Jace K, you don't have to worry about the scatter shot. But on top of it, how many times do you see a taunt monster in today's metagame? Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It happens a lot. Whether it's the Wave Brood chilling in the back on a blue team, or you got the Shield Bearer in the front, or you got the Coral Lurker, like that scatter shot can also really help you out.
Yep.
Yeah,
and sure, it's random. You don't know.
That's what's coming. I'm poo-pooing scatter shot as an ability, but if I run it for that reason, my opponent, I know that they're gonna play a taunt. They play a taunt. Shot targets the taunt every time. Like that's just how it works.
Well, let's just not talk about your RNG, Rick. Let's not.
Yes. I,